This one money lesson turned a janitor into an $8 million millionaire, and it can change your life too. Remember to like and subscribe for more Money Smart Basics videos. If you have any suggestions for financial literacy topics, please leave a comment. Stay until the end to receive a bonus tip. Have you ever heard of a man named Ronald Read? If you haven't, you're going to want to listen to this because his story completely changes how you think about getting rich. Ronald Read was a janitor. He spent his days sweeping floors and cleaning toilets. Before that, he worked as a gas station attendant for 25 years, pumping gas and checking oil. He lived an incredibly simple, unassuming life in a small town in Vermont. He drove a second-hand Toyota Yaris, used safety pins to hold his coat together, and chopped his own firewood. To anyone who met him, he was just a regular hard-working guy, and absolutely no one would have guessed his secret. The reason we're talking about him today is because when Ronald Read passed away at the age of 92, he left behind an estate worth $8 million. That's right, $8 million. And no, he didn't win the lottery. He didn't receive some massive inheritance from a long-lost relative, and he certainly didn't have a high-flying career in finance or tech. He never earned a six-figure salary, and he never made a single risky bet that paid off big. His wealth was built slowly, quietly, and methodically over decades, using a strategy that is available to absolutely everyone watching this video right now, regardless of your income. The secret to his incredible success wasn't about being a genius investor or having access to exclusive information. It wasn't about being smarter than Wall Street. The key, and this is the most important part, was mastering the behavioral side of money. He understood something that most highly educated, high-income professionals completely miss. As the author Morgan Housel famously wrote, financial success is not a hard science. It's a soft skill, where how you behave is more important than what you know. Ronald Read is the living proof of that statement. His story shows that building wealth has less to do with your intelligence and more to do with your psychology and your habits. That's exactly what we're going to break down today. You don't need a finance degree or a fancy job to build life-changing wealth. What you need is the right mindset and a solid understanding of the psychological traps that cause most people to fail. In this video, I'm going to give you the 5 biggest lessons from Morgan Housel's incredible book, The Psychology of Money, using Ronald Read's story as our guide. These are the exact principles that allowed a janitor to become a multimillionaire, and they are the same principles that can help you achieve your own financial goals. So grab a cold brew, smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's jump right in. The first lesson in finance is simple: everything has a price. Growing wealth isn't free. It costs volatility, fear, and patience. When your investments drop, that's not a fine. It's the fee for long-term gains. Investors like Ronald Read paid this price by staying patient through crashes and downturns. The true currency is patience, sticking to your plan when others panic. Pay the price, stay patient, and you'll earn the grand prize: lasting wealth. The second lesson is knowing when enough is enough. In a world obsessed with more, this skill protects you from risking everything for what you don't need. The goalpost always moves, but chasing more can lead to disaster. Just ask those who lost it all by never stopping. Enough is about living life on your terms, with security and peace of mind. Define your own finish line, step off the treadmill, and enjoy the life you've built. Everyone's financial behavior makes sense to them. We judge others' money choices through our own lens, but everyone's financial worldview is shaped by unique experiences. What seems irrational to you may be a logical response to someone else's life story. For some, a lottery ticket is hope, not a bad investment. We're all playing different financial games, with different goals and risks. The key is to understand your own story and build a plan that fits your life, not someone else's. You can't predict disasters, but you can prepare. Even the best investors can't see the next crash coming. No one has a crystal ball. History is full of unexpected events, from the Great Depression to 9/11 and COVID-19, that shook markets without warning. The key isn't to avoid the storms, but to build a strong financial ship to weather them. Start with an emergency fund, your financial fire extinguisher. Keep debt low, especially high-interest debt, and invest consistently, no matter the headlines. Preparation beats prediction, every time. Let's be honest, pessimism has a certain appeal. It sounds intelligent, sophisticated, and worldly. When someone predicts doom and gloom, we tend to listen more closely. They sound like they've uncovered a hidden truth that the naive optimists are blissfully ignoring. The financial media absolutely thrives on this. Headlines that scream market crash imminent, or this bubble is about to burst, get far more clicks and views than headlines that say markets will likely trend upward over the next 30 years. Fear sells. It grabs our attention because our brains are hardwired to be on high alert for threats. This is an ancient survival mechanism that, in the modern world of investing, often does more harm than good. Think about the people who are constantly predicting recessions. There's always someone, somewhere, with a very convincing chart and a compelling narrative about why the entire system is on the verge of collapse. And because the economy moves in cycles, eventually, they will be right. A stopped clock is right twice a day. When the recession they've been predicting for 10 years finally arrives, they're hailed as a genius, a prophet. We forget about the 9 years of missed gains we would have suffered if we had listened to them and stayed out of the market. Pessimism often masquerades as wisdom, but it's usually just a broken record of fear that keeps people on the sidelines while wealth is being built. The problem with a pessimistic worldview is that it assumes the current trend or problem will continue indefinitely without any response or innovation. It looks at a problem in isolation and extrapolates it into disaster. For example, in the 1970s, pessimists warned of overpopulation and mass starvation, predicting that the world would run out of food. They failed to account for the Green Revolution, innovations in agriculture that dramatically increased crop yields and fed a growing planet. Pessimism often underestimates the most powerful force in human history, our ability to adapt, innovate, and solve problems. It's a static view in a dynamic world. This is why long-term investing requires a fundamental sense of optimism. Not blind optimism that ignores risks, but a rational optimism based on historical evidence. The janitor who became a millionaire wasn't a genius who could predict market tops and bottoms. He was an optimist. He had faith that, despite the inevitable wars, recessions, pandemics, and political crises, the broader trend of human progress would continue. He believed that companies would continue to innovate, create value, and generate profits, and that by owning a small piece of those companies, his wealth would grow over time. This foundational belief is what allowed him to stay invested through decades of terrifying headlines. Rational optimism isn't about wearing rose-colored glasses or believing that bad things won't happen. They will. The market will crash again. There will be another recession. The world will face new, unforeseen crises. A rational optimist understands and accepts this. However, they also understand a more powerful, countervailing truth. The long-term trajectory of human progress is astonishingly positive. For every step back, we've eventually taken 2 steps forward. This isn't just a feel-good sentiment, it's a historical fact reflected in nearly every metric of human well-being. From life expectancy and literacy rates to global GDP and technological advancement. Think about the world 100 years ago. There were no antibiotics, commercial air travel was a novelty, the internet didn't exist, and many diseases that are now easily treatable were a death sentence. The global economy, despite being punctuated by devastating events like the Great Depression and 2 world wars, has grown exponentially. This growth is fueled by human ingenuity, our relentless desire to find better, faster, and cheaper ways to do things. This drive for improvement is the engine of capitalism and the ultimate source of investment returns. When you buy a broad market index fund, you are, in essence, making a long-term bet on this unstoppable force of human progress. Warren Buffett, arguably the greatest investor of all time, built his entire fortune on this principle. He famously said, "For 240 years it's been a terrible mistake to bet against America, and it is now." This isn't just blind patriotism, it's a calculated bet on a system that rewards innovation, encourages competition, and has a proven track record of overcoming immense challenges. While pessimists focus on the daily problems, the quarterly earnings misses, and the political squabbles, optimists like Buffett zoom out and look at the bigger picture. They see that setbacks are temporary, but progress is permanent. This optimistic perspective is what gives you the fortitude to buy when others are fearful. During the depths of the 2008 financial crisis, when pessimism was at its absolute peak and people were convinced the financial system was ending, optimists were quietly buying stocks at once in a generation discounts. They understood that the US government would not let the entire banking system fail, and that eventually, the economy would recover. Their optimism wasn't a guess, it was a calculated assessment based on centuries of historical precedent, and they were rewarded handsomely for it, while the pessimists who sold at the bottom locked in their losses forever. So how do we apply this lesson in a practical way? It's not about ignoring bad news or pretending risks don't exist. That's not optimism. It's delusion. Practical optimism is about giving progress and growth the weight they deserve in your decision-making process. It means that when you hear a pessimistic argument, your first question shouldn't be, is this problem real? It should be, how have we solved similar or even bigger problems in the past? It's about contextualizing today's crisis within the long arc of history, which is overwhelmingly a story of problems being solved and standards of living rising over time. This optimistic framework should be the foundation of your investment strategy. It's the reason why a buy and hold strategy with a diversified, low-cost index fund works so well over the long term. You are not betting on a single company, a single industry, or a single country. You are betting on the collective ingenuity and productivity of the global economy. You're accepting that there will be volatility and downturns along the way, but you have a fundamental belief that the long-term direction is up. This belief is what will stop you from panic selling during the next market crash, which is the single biggest destroyer of wealth for individual investors. The janitor embodied this practical optimism. He didn't need to be an expert in macroeconomics or technical analysis. He just needed to have faith in the system over the long run. He saved his money, invested it consistently in a diversified portfolio, and then let the power of human progress and compound interest do the heavy lifting for him. He tuned out the noise of the daily news cycle, with its constant chorus of pessimism and fear, and focused on the long-term signal of growth and innovation. His wealth wasn't the result of a single brilliant move. It was the result of a simple, optimistic philosophy applied with incredible discipline over many decades. Ultimately, pessimism might win a few battles by correctly calling a short-term downturn, but optimism wins the war. Wealth is created by people and companies that solve problems and create value. By investing, you are providing the capital that fuels this creation. It is a fundamentally optimistic act. It's a belief that the future will be better than the past, and that you can share in the prosperity that this progress creates. So while the pessimists sound smart talking about the next crash, the optimists are the ones who are quietly building fortunes. Choose to be an optimist. History has shown it's the most profitable long-term position you can take. We've covered a lot of ground, digging deep into the simple yet profound lessons that allowed an ordinary man with a modest income to achieve extraordinary wealth. It proves that building a fortune isn't about having a high-paying job, a lucky stock pick, or some secret knowledge. It's about mastering your own behavior and understanding the psychology of money. It's about having a set of timeless principles that guide you through the inevitable ups and downs of the market and of life. These aren't complicated formulas, they are fundamental truths about how wealth is really built, and they are accessible to every single one of us, starting today. So let's quickly recap the 5 powerful money lessons that can make ordinary people wealthy. First, wealth has a price, and that price is volatility and uncertainty. You have to be willing to endure the downturns and the scary headlines without panicking. The fee for amazing long-term returns is patience. Pay it, and you will get the prize. Second, if you don't know when you have enough, envy will bankrupt you. The goalpost will always be moving if you compare yourself to others. True wealth is having the freedom to stop running on the hamster wheel. Never risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. Third, everyone's money choices make sense to them based on their unique experiences. Stop trying to copy the financial strategies of people playing a different game than you are. Your personal finance journey is just that. Personal. Build a strategy that fits your life, your goals, and your risk tolerance. Fourth, you cannot predict crises, but you can absolutely prepare for them. Stop trying to time the next crash. Instead, build a financial fortress with a solid cash emergency fund, low debt, and a consistent investment plan. This is how you become anti-fragile. And finally, lesson number 5. Pessimism sounds smart, but long-term optimism is what actually builds wealth. Bad news grabs attention, but it's a terrible guide for long-term strategy. History overwhelmingly shows that human ingenuity and progress win over time. A rational, long-term optimism is the most profitable mindset an investor can have. For a much deeper dive into these concepts, I highly recommend reading the book that inspired many of these lessons, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And for more practical wisdom on building your financial future, make sure to watch the next video we've linked for you. Stay smart, stay focused, and build your future. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. With that, you are ahead of 90% of most people in America. Here is the bonus tip that we promised. Most people only look at how much money they have, but they never pay attention to how they behave with money.
The information provided in this content is for educational and informational purposes only, and should not be considered financial, legal, or tax advice. Always consult with a qualified financial advisor, tax professional, or legal counsel before making any financial decisions. The creator of this content is not responsible for any actions taken based on the information provided. Investments and financial decisions carry risk, and past performance does not guarantee future results.